I didn't appreciate when I was young. Your tastes change, right? And I had people coming up to me when I was a kid saying things like, and you probably heard this too. When I was in my bubblegum stage, someone played me Bob Dylan. I went, what the heck is this? Why would I want to listen to this? Of course, being young and not really understanding what music was or how I was supposed to feel. I mean, you like something or you don't. This is a thing that I've said many times on this channel. You either like something or you don't like it, and you can't tell someone what to like. And sometimes they're not ready for it, right? Oh, there's my commercial coming on. How I pay the bills. Anyway, let me put this on so I can get some comments from you guys. So there was a lot. I think that I'm not sure why my computer's fan is going off like that. It's very attractive. I put the heat up. Maybe that's why. So I'd like for you, all of you, to tell me, are there people let's just look at your teens like the title says. Are there bands in your teens that you listen to that you really didn't like it a lot? I mean, you had a visceral reaction to it, maybe, I don't know. And all of a sudden now, many, many years later, it's, I think, been a lot of years since we were teens, you look back and you go, wow, how could I not like that? But then you didn't. You weren't ready for it. And I was listening to a lot of sweet stuff when I was first in my teens and starting to buy records. Anything that was kind of like bouncy. I didn't like I wasn't into the David Cassidys or things like that. That kind of teeny bopper stuff as much. But hi, Melody. But still, I was into a lot of, like the early sweet stuff, which was kind of glammy and stuff like that. The biggest example for me of not liking something, the ultimate example that showed, in my case, I'd say ignorance, was Elvis. And I've said this story, and I'm trying to get an interview with Jason Sheff's father, who played with Elvis till the end right now. And if I would get it, I'd like to admit to him of what I said the day Elvis died, which was probably the most ignorant thing I've ever said concerning music. I said, who cares? My mother said, Elvis is dead. I said, I was just a long-haired kid, not into Elvis. Sorry about the fan noise. But I told my mom. And then within a few days of everyone playing Elvis, and it's not like I hadn't heard his music. You'd have to be living under a rock not to have heard Elvis's music. But it was just like the ultimate stupid teenage thing to do. And then from there, I quickly became an Elvis fan. I don't know, because he was dead and people looked at him as a god. There's this thing in advertising. It's dumbing it down, but we used to have this thing where if you see an artist someplace and you go, oh, yeah, okay, well, I don't have time for that. And you turn around and they're on TV. And you go, oh, it's that person again. And then you turn around and there's an ad for them in a magazine. And then again, you hear them on the radio. So, oh, that's that band. Oh, okay. After a while, you start going, well, I better pay attention, right? And when Elvis died, a lot of people were paying attention. It was a big deal. And even for my ignorant self at that age, I stopped and I went, okay, I'm wrong. It's not that, listen, again, I always say you can't help what you like or you don't like. But I thought for someone to make that much of an impact, and of course I knew how big he was, king of rock and roll. I knew that, but for whatever reason, I thought maybe I'm not digging deeper. Maybe I've just put up these walls around Elvis. And it ended up being the stupidest thing that I've ever said in my life. And A, that's disrespectful. That's I should start with that. But when you're a teenager, that's what happens. I'm just going to read some of your comments before I get to some of the list here. Most of this, I don't think a lot of you will be surprised by a lot of this. James Bashir, nice to have you back, buddy. Hello from Dogtown Road, John. Hope everyone is doing well. Chris Snodgrass, hi, John. Melody, said hi to you from Saskatchewan. Barry Giddy, stuff from the 60s my parents listened to, but I like it now. Yes, that's a perfect example. Yeah. Angel... what is it? Angela Gotta Rock. Hi from New Jersey. Rock on. New Jersey. James Bashir. I appreciate Barbra Streisand and the Carpenters more now than I did then. I liked them back then, but there was something really sweet about the Carpenters especially. Bob's Place. Hello from Maryland, John. Another one I'll mention, well, Elvis was the first one. The blues I wasn't into, which is one of the reasons I didn't like Led Zeppelin 1. Even though there was blues on all their albums, Led Zeppelin 1 just didn't, to me, it was just like he was just howling on top of a rooftop, Robert Plant. But now it's not one of my favorites. It's still one of my least favorite Led Zeppelin albums. But through listening to so much blues in my life, and you can't go to a bar without someone playing the blues. And after a while, I don't know if it's a you can't beat 'em, join 'em thing, but you start watching someone play the blues in a live bar long enough. You're up there watching them, and they're into it, man. Again, howling at the moon. You start seeing there's something cathartic going on here. Not for everyone, but the blues is another thing. I hated the blues when I was a teen. Dude, my friends were going, "Oh, Led Zeppelin 1, listening to it." Because that was the bluesiest rock album around, my friends at least. Country back then, another thing. I would always say I hated country music because it was block programming in radio when I was growing up. If you grew up in a small town, you know block programming where in the morning they may play country, in the afternoon they may play something else, maybe easygoing, middle of the road stuff, and at night they play rock and roll. That's called block programming in radio. Now we have so many radio stations that most radio stations don't have to do that anymore because there's a rock station over there, right? So you don't do that. But back then they called it block programming. Angel Gotta Rock. What? Jamie Martinez. Hall & Oates. Like Now. There you go. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, Jamie, greetings from LA. Melody. I like the Doors now. Yeah, thank you for that. I'm just kind of curious on what yours are. The people that, you didn't like back then. Alan Barsness. Barsness? Yeah. Hello, Melody. Hello, Alan. Ronnie, CBX. Kings, I love now. James Bashir. In the early teens, my big three were the Beatles, Stones, and Elvis. Well, see, you were on the right track. You were doing way better than I was back then. I've always been a Beatles fan. From the moment I heard him, I was sold. Then came Led Zeppelin. Yeah. Well, I don't know why my fan's going on all the time. Maybe I've got too much stuff around it. I cleaned all the fans. David Bowie was another one for me. Someone mentioned Bowie in our last telecast and a live stream. I wasn't a big David Bowie fan. My friend Tommy Morrison was we lost Tommy a few years ago. He introduced me to a lot of great music. He was a big Alice Cooper fan. I was never an Alice Cooper fan. But then I got older and I was interested in Alice Cooper because I thought Alice Cooper was an interesting guy. If you want to sit down with Alice Cooper, you're going to have a good conversation. So then I gave his music another chance. I still didn't become a huge fan, but I wasn't, but Tommy Morrison, biggest David Bowie fan ever. Like Space Oddity, I love, Changes, Starman, Rebel, of course, Fame, Young Americans. But I hated things like the Gene Genie. I hated that song. And it got in your head as like an earworm. Bob Dylan's another one in my teens that I didn't get into. And now later on, when I got into radio, I started listening to it because you have to, and you have to know your stuff, right? Oh, Barry Giddy, thank you. Don't forget to everyone, like our video. We'd appreciate that. Makes a big difference when people like the video. Because I want to do more things like that where you get a chance to tell me. I'm always really curious on things that you hated, but you like now. I'm going to tell you something. I used to do a lot of radio focus groups and hire consultants, and I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but I've been a program director. And of two stations, The Breeze and Cal 103. And when we were doing that, and even when I was going to talk to consultants in Vancouver for the station I'm currently working at, Move 103, which was QM-FM back then. QM right there. Can you see it? Yeah. I work for Seafund as well. One day someone came in and said, the biggest song that we came up with in our research that people did not like when it was released, but like now, the best example of that was I Love Rock and Roll Joan Jett. That was one song that people came around to more than any other song and I asked why, and they said this happens to a lot of songs. It's just happened to this song more. And this is radio research. The fact that, because it's a like 'em or hate 'em kind of song. I love rock and roll, Old Time Rock and Roll by Bob Seger's like that, kind of like a really stripped down campfire chorus, and everyone can understand that. And that was on that list as well. They just said it became part of your patchwork. After a while, that if you grew up in the 80s where that song was released, after a while you just when you look back at all the big hits, it was okay to include that. And you'd heard it so many times, it was just part of where you're from. And I thought, I get that, you know? You know? He also told me something interesting. This is off topic a little bit. That Madonna's songs scored better when people didn't know it was Madonna. Now that says something about her likability factor, right? Her Q rating. That people rated her music higher when they didn't know it was her. So they liked her music more than they liked her personally. She wasn't a dividing force maybe like the Kardashians were, because you mentioned the Kardashians, half the people who hear the name hate them and the other half love them. You know, I'd be more with the former than the latter because I've never watched the Kardashians ever. But there's polarizing figures, and Madonna wasn't necessarily a polarizing figure back then. But by the time they did this study, she really was in some ways. I mean, she was trying to stay young by then. Her career was fading a little bit. Now she's come full circle because she's a gold artist, and she can do anything now. She can go tour, not release anything for the rest of her life, and tour as much as she wants. Okay, Bob's Place. Some of the band hard rock groups like Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin. Okay. Darren says, in high school band class, I didn't like the 50s and 60s rock music, along with jazz, classical, show tunes. I brought in a Huey Lewis and the News concert video to prove the point. Oh, cool. Tony says Floyd, to Pink Floyd. Hike with Mike. Hey, folks. How you doing, Hike? Nice, Mike, nice to have you here. I called you Hike. Bob's Place. I've never liked Springsteen, even to this day. See, that's another interesting point. Artists that my buddy Buddy Got just wrote an article that he said Springsteen's overrated. And of course, when you write an article like that, and I was a music critic for magazines for a few years, they always say, don't point out this is your opinion because it's supposed to be bigger than that. I'm going, yeah, but it is my opinion. I'm a rock critic, but it is my opinion. And they said, you can't say that. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. Scarmity 100 says, for me, I really appreciate Glenn Campbell now. What an amazing talent. Really great guitarist. A talent, amazing. Angela Got a Rock. Oh my God. A song like that for me was We Belong, Pat Benatar. Oh, is that right? Okay. Hike with Mike. Sorry if you can hear that fan. I'm not sure what's going on. Didn't like Bon Jovi, Winger, Nirvana. Still don't dig them. I can't stand Nirvana. Didn't like grunge. Most of the grunge. I like Alice in Chains a little bit. Nirvana I couldn't stand. Still can't stand them. I mean, we're going off. I knew we would. I decided to say teens because that seemed to be a period. But you can mention anybody. Like, Jennifer Nettles. I can't stand her voice. I hear she's a really nice person. But, you like what you like. Michael said, I actually hated Pink Floyd and The Doors. And then later, I came to my senses. I love them now. Zeppelin, Genesis were my bands. I saw Zeppelin. Oh, you saw Zeppelin in 77. Right on. Good for you, man. Trenton Paul, grew up on pop, AM radio. Yep. Trucker Kev, the paid tourist. Duran, Annie Lennox, pretty much the Eurythmics in general, but still not Nickelback. Okay, thank you. Like our video, please. Mike L, the Bee Gees. Okay. I've always liked the Bee Gees, even the old Bee Gees, To Love Somebody. Michael W. I'm actually a fan of crooners, Dean Martin, Sinatra, and similar types now. Yeah, me too. I've always liked Perry Como because we had a Perry Como Christmas album. So that got me into the crooners. Bubba Schwartz. I don't like Jackson Browne. Well, you don't like him, right? Joe says, never liked Springsteen either. One and only famous rockers I don't own a record of. Mike says, I hated Bruce Springsteen. I still do some artists. They push too hard. Too artificial like Madonna. Justin James Jewell. There's that title. Not an artist, but a single song. When I first heard Yes It Is by the Beatles, I don't really care for the harmonies. Okay. I don't know how to say that username. Mukundan. I can't. When I was a teen long ago, I didn't like Michael McDonald. Now I have great respect. There you go. That's exactly what we want. I was interested in hearing. Dwayne says, hello, everyone. Hi, Dwayne. Shunt guy, message retracted. Dwayne says, I still don't like disco music. See, I loved disco back then. I just loved it. I didn't buy a lot of it, I have to admit. It's interesting. My friends always point that out. They said, well, how come you didn't buy any disco? Like Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, but everyone bought that. And I went, I don't know. Elvis Costello, all that punky stuff, post-punk, Elvis, The Clash, Sex Pistols, Ramones, New York Dolls, didn't like him at all. Dr. John, Talking Heads, didn't like him at all. But Talking Heads I got into a little bit more after that. Dr. John, a little bit more. Janet Jackson, never appreciated her stuff. Got to like it. Shannon would point out, hey, you're kind of tapping your toes to Janet Jackson. Celine Dion was one of those people. I still don't care about Celine. I'd rather listen to Celine Dion than watch her. I can't look at her. I don't know what it is. She just seems so uncomfortable and pasty or something. I don't know what it is. I'm sure she's nice. Rap, I hated rap. And then I'll watch things like Inventing Anna, where there's a lot of rap in it. And Shannon says, you're really grooving to this music. I'm going, this is great stuff. Am I going to go out and buy rap? No, not going to happen. So there you go. What time is it? I got to keep track of the time because I have to record my show and pick up my son at Costco, who's working in the clothing section tonight. Chase is. Dwayne says, just enjoying this live stream. I hated Eurythmics as a teen, but now I'm in love with Annie Lennox. There you go. Lauren S. I absolutely despised Steely Dan growing up. I love them now. See, there's a great example of stuff like that. Harry Chapman is another one of those artists that people maybe not. It took a bit. It was an acquired taste, but it just took some time for some people. I liked Steely Dan's early stuff. It was hard not to like them. Then they got into the real Steely Dan stuff with, like, by the time Asia came out, it was. I mean, Peg is an unmistakable pop single, but to really get into the whole album and I had a lot of people in high school who were going, I don't get it. Even for Peg, I'd go, how can you? Peg's like a hit single. It's one of those songs, even if you don't like Steely Dan, you're going to like Peg, right? But not necessarily. That's what I thought. I used to go on the radio, and I still do sometimes, and I'll say Live to Tell, for instance, by Madonna. When I play that, Open Your Heart's another one. I'm going, even if you don't like Madonna, you're going to like these songs. They're just good hit singles, right? And Janet Jackson was like that for me, where I'd go, there'd be a few Janet Jackson songs, and I go, I don't like Janet Jackson. I don't know what it is. She seems like pretentious to me. I don't like when people name, Miss Jackson if you're nasty. I remember going, I don't want to hear that ever again. But as time went on, I would have to say it's unmistakable. I mean, Janet Jackson was an amazing artist, is still an amazing artist. Another one, good example, Aaliyah from Queen of the Damned. Remember? That was one of the worst acting performances I've ever seen of a singer in my life. I remember going, this woman got no talent. She's not. And then I thought, I want to listen to some of her stuff. I've heard some of her stuff. I've played some of her stuff on the radio. But I went deeper and I went, you realize that Aaliyah had like 12 top 40 hits. I know she died in a plane crash. It was very tragic. Was she overrated? Well, to me, I didn't get it as much. But she had a lot of great songs. Would I go out and buy it? Never in a million years. But I wouldn't go out and buy Janet Jackson either. And I went to, so sometimes when I have a visceral reaction to someone, I'm going, oh my God. And this is before Aaliyah died. This is, I'd go, what's the stuff about that? What is all people talking about for this girl? Aretha, I get, but Aretha had a long career. Dionne Warwick, I get, a lot of the, like Linda Ronstadt, I got right away. Streisand, I've always liked as far as female singers, got it right away. But I went back and I said, you know what? I was a little too hasty there. So there's sometimes now Jennifer Nettles, All I Want to Do by Sugarland. I'm never going to like that song. That's one of my most hated songs of all time. So there's certain ones I will not go back. I mean, I don't know. Never say never, right? You never know. Next week, Jennifer Nettles. I hear she's very, very nice. Okay, E. Sandstrom. Backwards approach. I liked Aerosmith as a young one, but can't stand them now. There you go. Thank you for that. That's refreshing. Ben didn't like classical music. I love it now. My friend John Scott, who introduced me to a lot of music, he listens to only classical now. Justin James Jewell. Some country has also grown on me. Yep, same here. But there's a difference between pop country and southern wholesome country music. Justin, I'm with you 100%. I didn't like country music in the 70s. All that stuff I love now. Todd Lancaster. I thought Stevie Ray Vaughan was a Hendrix clone and missed a chance to see him in small clubs. Wow. Yeah, when we're young, right? Chuck says the Stones Miss You was not played in 78 any Cleveland radio stations because it was disco song. Oh, yeah. By the way, that's the album that, you know what? By the time Some Girls came out, I kind of got the Stones, and I went back, and I knew, I knew a lot of stuff they had. My friend gave me Hot Rocks after that. He says, you got to listen to Hot Rocks, which you remember the 2 CD greatest hits. And I went back and I know all these songs. I'd have to be living in a cave not to know most of. Get Off My Cloud. I never really liked that song. But even now, I like that song more than I ever did. And then and then I found out Some Girls was their biggest selling album. I'm going, what? How can Some Girls be the Stones' biggest selling album? And then I'm going, well, it is what it is, right? In the 70s. But I went back and I like the Stones now. So there you go. I appreciate all your answers, and please like our video. But this is so cool that I'm so curious about this topic. Okay, Ghetto Streamlabs. For me, it was actually the Beatles. I'm 42. All my dad had was albums, and sound quality was awful. And when they were remastered years ago, I tried again and loved them. Don't hate me. It's okay. James Bashirs. Love Bee Gees until Jive Talkin' and beyond. I can listen to some now, though. I love Jive Talk. Well, speaking of Jive Talking, Main Course was my first Bee Gees album that I actually bought. Swede Savage. I hated the Knack at first, and then they were an amazing band with great songs. Yeah, the albums were good. Wade says, Rolling Stones. Thank you, Wade. Ben didn't like punk and still don't like it now. Same here. I've warmed up a little bit. Douglas W. Was not a fan of punk in its heyday, but really enjoy it now. See, that happens. Ben says, I tried to like it, but respect others who do. Yeah, you like what you like, right? Melody, I loved the Guess Who, Scorpions, Rush, Led Zeppelin when I was a teen. Still do. Thanks, Melody. Danny Andrews, mine is backwards. Loved Springsteen in the 70s, but can't stand and listen to him now because he is he's ruined his music. When it comes to politics, I'm going, everyone's allowed to talk about politics. I understand when they say you're using your forum to talk about politics, because I'll always say, well, your plumber's allowed to talk about politics. The guy at Walmart can talk about politics, when he's in a lunchroom. But if he talked about politics while he was working, that'd be different, right? Because I can understand that, but I don't hate Ted Nugent, or how do I say this? I don't mind Ted Nugent, but I also think Ted Nugent's a little off his rocker. He seems to be just kind of lost it a little bit. And Clapton's the same way. But there are a lot of Republican musicians that I loved. I've interviewed a lot of them. We have great conversations. We agree to disagree on some things. That's fine. But I'm not going to go, they're crazy, my God. I'm not wired that way, right? And I'm not big in conspiracy theories and kooky stuff like that. I've always liked Steely Dan, Dwayne says. Ghetto Streamlads. Agree, Danny? Darren says, John, if you were asked to be a DJ on a TV show, WKRP in Cincinnati back then, would you appear? Well, I would have been too young. I would have been 16, 17. Mr. Mustard. Aaliyah's Hot. Try Again is a great song. She had some good singles, And she really was talented. I was just too judgmental with her. Because there was a part of me going, who is this? Like, what's the, everyone's going nuts about this person. And I, because of all the hoopla, I thought I expected her to be better. And now I look back and I go, oh, Leah was talented. Okay, the Queen of the Damned, that was the worst. That was a bad performance to me. I looked at that and I'm going, that's overacting 101. Bubba says, I know you love the Franco family. I used to like them, yeah. Pulsar. Real country is called bluegrass. Okay. Yeah. Beginning of country was a lot of bluegrassy stuff. Justin James Jewell. And I'm only 21. Okay. Bob's Place. Never liked Sinatra, Tony Bennett. Love them now. Michael Bublé is great too. I met Tony Bennett. Pulsar Lights. Best Stones album, Exile on Main Street, Sticky Fingers. Two great albums, yes. Trev Kev, The Paid Tourist. Let It Bleed, yes. Wade Capone. I really didn't like the Rolling Stones, but I can't live without them. There you go, see? I love Streetheart. Thanks, Melody. John. Hey, John. How you doing, man? Nice to have you on here. Was never a Moody Blues fan as a teenager. Now I can listen to them, enjoy their music. Thank you. Mr. Neil. In the 80s, Talking Heads were a group for weirdos, but I actually quite like them now. See, I agree with you. Yeah. Mr. Mustard, you too. Never thought much of the music of Megadeth and Metallica. Overrated. Well, Megadeth, I never got into at all. Metallica, a little bit more. One of the Megadeth's old guitarists one day gave me hell for something. I forget what it was. I don't know who he was because I know nothing about the band. But he was a lesser known guy. Douglas W. Main Course was a great Bee Gees album. Yeah, Nights on Broadway. I spoke to a Blue Weaver, their keyboardist at the time. Nice guy, all cool. Pulsar Lights. If you talk politics, you take the risk of alienating half your audience. You do. It's very true. And it's not worth it. And I'm not here to talk about politics. But I'm always want to point out the fact that I would not interview someone because of their politics. But if they're crazy, I wouldn't interview them. But, define crazy, right? I know. But if they're saying insane things that can't be substantiated, I'm not going to put someone like that on. And then we don't talk about that. But if the artist can't help but talk about politics, then I can't have them on my show because people don't come to rock history music for politics, right? I mean, God, people probably come here to get away from politics and all these rock channels, right? So I'll do you right. We'll stay away from that stuff. Chicago Guy Garage. Love the Beatles when I was young, but I've heard their songs so many times that I usually skip them. You know what? You're not the only person, right? I understand that. Pulsar. Why would you do that? Burt Bacharach, shunt guy. Oh, wow. Wade Capone. I used to not understand country, but you do now. Glenn Warner. Monsters in the House. Okay. Bob's Place. Never liked rap hip hop, but loved Temptation, Supreme, Sam Cooke, Marvin Gaye, Stylistics. You just name a whole bunch of bands there and performers I love. It took me a while to get into R&B, maybe because the radio station I was at, but the radio station in our small town, which is an hour and a half from here because I live not that far away, never played a lot of R&B. The Top 100 would come on at the end of the year. And I remember hearing Bungle in the Jungle before I started buying Jethro Tull stuff because I started late with Jethro Tull, except knowing Aquilon and Thick of the Brick and stuff like that. I'd go, Bungle in the Jungle? I've never heard that song. I didn't know it because it was never played on the radio station. I know that's not R&B, but stuff like that. When Will I See You Again? 3 Degrees. Never played it. Interview Joni Mitchell. I don't think I can get Joni. Ben. Yeah, I know Dave's their guitarist. It wasn't him. It was someone who had left the band, or I don't know. Were there brothers in that band? I know nothing about this band. Danny Andrews. I see no reason to pay good money to listen to someone who wants to insult me just because we disagree on something. Yeah, I agree. Michael Saldu. John, off topic, but you what? That's a cut off there. Pulsar. Okay, I'm not gonna see now. You're getting political. Of course, he has a career. Steve, my appreciation of Soft Machine has increased immeasurably. Okay, Douglas. Burned out on Fleetwood Mac by the time I turned 19. Now I'm 60. Stations play them. Oh yeah, they play them a lot. Steve, recovering DJ here, 35 years. Oh yeah, I'm on my 39th. Bob's Place, 63 watching, only 41 likes. I got 65. Oh, I don't know. I can't tell. Please like our video. No, we won't get political. Yeah, come on here not to hear political stuff. That's... Oh, Joe says, Bungle in the Jungle got too much radio airplay. It was number, I think, 99 or 100 in the top 100 that year. Jason, okay, you're in the middle of a conversation there. Hike with Mike. When I was a teen, I was a metalhead. Like new wave music, come to appreciate many bands. James says, love Top 40 radio, opening my ears a lot to good mixed music. I love when I go on to a streaming service and they'll just, based on what I play, they'll say, maybe you'll like this. And I'll go, cool. I discover new music. You never have time to listen to everything. It's virtually impossible to have, if you're a 60s guy, to have listened to all the 60s albums. It's just really, especially as you get older, we don't always have the time, unless you're retired. I know a lot of retired friends who pretty much listen to music, drink a little bit of beer, go on vacation, exercise. They just love all that stuff. Steve says, what happened to rock radio? Well, it stopped playing. It started playing the 80s. Classic rock radio. I don't know about rock radio, but classic rock started playing the 80s because they had to, because the demographic was getting older, right? And then they started playing less 60s music because the demographic was dying that was listening to that. That's a dumbing down version. There's a lot more to that. Michael said, do you have Armando Gallo's second Genesis book, From a Fan to Another? No, I've just got the first one. And it's signed by Phil Collins and I think Mike Rutherford. I bought it used, so I can't say that it's really signed by them, because I do have autographs of Genesis, though. I think I have Tony Banks' autograph, Daryl Sturmer autograph, but Daryl sent me that, so I know it's real. Phil Collins, Peter Gabriel, Tony Levin. Well, he played with Peter Gabriel. He wasn't in Genesis. I think I've got the core three guys. I've never asked him. I'm sure he'd send me an autograph if I asked him. He might have autographed Trick of the Tail. I don't know. I haven't seen it in so long. I was supposed to put him up on the wall. Always like this channel. Thank you, Daryl. Daryl B. You know, there have been a lot of radio announcers through the years named Daryl B. Were you ever an announcer? Atlanta Rhythm Section. Well, their lead singer died quite a few years ago. I did a thing on him. When was that? I'm not sure how many. And then another member died, a guitarist, a few years ago. So I don't know. Let me see. What was the lead singer's name, Atlanta Rhythm Section? I forgot his name. Come on, folks. Give me the lead singer of Atlanta Rhythm Section. He's dead now. He's been dead for quite a few years. Can't believe I forgot his name. His name was... My God, my computer's so slow tonight. Oh, Ronnie Hammond. Yeah. So, let me see the members. Paul Goddard, he was the big guy, the bass player, lost a lot of weight. I remember he was on and off with the band for a while. And, you know, I used to I hated people used to make jokes about him in high school, just because someone's big. You never know what they're dealing with. It's just ridiculous. But you do that when you're, growing up. People do stupid stuff. Okay, I'm going to read a few more comments, and I really have to record my show. By the way, thank you for the folks. In the last few days, a few folks were watching our videos and gave us donations, which was really, really nice, especially now because we're doing an ad campaign with our trailer to sort of get people towards the channel. We don't advertise necessarily specific videos, just a trailer and say, hey, this is what we do. Okay. Ghetto says, I hated Hall & Oates as a teenager. Now they are one of my favorite groups. Thank you. It's what we wanted to hear. Hike with Mike. My first album I bought when I was 10 was Boston's first album. Yeah. Bob Potter, Photomaker, had some great music, but never made it big. Steve says, worked for a station manager who was a 60s radio DJ at CKLW, Pat Holiday. Oh, cool. Mike says, my grandson just walked past me watching your program, and he said, Grandpa, I didn't know Tony Stark had a radio show. I don't really get that too much anymore. I used to get it a lot more when I dyed this, and I'm ready to dye it again because whenever I tan a lot in the summertime, and I look washed out. So Shannon, I always say, Shannon, should I darken it a little bit? Just a little bit. I won't look like Rico Suave anymore. I used to darken it way too much. If you look at my early videos, oh my God, what was I thinking? Why didn't Shannon tell me? You look like a dork, John. Brian Drexler. Good evening, John. Hello. We're unfortunately ready to pack it in. Douglas W. Good broadcast as always, John. Thank you. James Bashir. Remember going to a pre-concert party for the Atlanta Rhythm section. Really good show. I've never seen them. Danny Andrews, you had a message, but it was retracted. Okay, I got my little pen. By the way, again, thank you for all the folks because you can donate money whenever you're watching a regular video. You can, which is really nice. And I appreciate that. But it's hard times, right, for all of us right now. So it's a difficult thing. But I didn't get back to some of those people, and I will tonight later on to say thank you personally. So take good care of yourself. Thank you for answering my questions. This was so cool of getting your feedback of things that you didn't like, or backwards. I liked some of you who said, well, I used to like this person. I don't really like him now, right? And I can understand if someone doesn't like someone because it's political now. I mean, it goes against your core beliefs, right? So I can understand that. It is what it is. You like what you like. You don't like what you don't like. Love you guys. Seriously, you make a big difference in my life. So thank you, all of you. And the comments I've missed, I'll read them after because I always go back. I don't look at myself, but I read the comments. There you go. Take care.